My name is Elias Dunn. I'm 37, a cybersecurity analyst for one of the largest defense contractors in Seattle. I come from a long line of men who served military, government, law. I broke the pattern by choosing code over combat, silence over command. That choice made me the outlier, both in my family and in my marriage. My wife, Sayuri, was everything I wasn't: fluent in 3 languages, polished, diplomatic, born into wealth and raised between Tokyo and London. I always felt like her pet project, useful, quiet, unassuming. Maybe that's why she never suspected I understood every word she said that night. Especially when she smiled sweetly, leaned closer to her Japanese partners, and spoke about me like I was already gone. And that was the moment I knew my wife wasn't just lying to me, she was planning something that could destroy me. The invitation came with a silk ribbon and the scent of bergamot. Sayuri slid it across the table during breakfast like it was an afterthought. Dinner at the Yamamoto suite. You're expected. Wear the navy suit, she said, buttering toast like we were discussing weather. Expected? I asked. It's ceremonial. My partners will be there. And their wives. It matters, Elias. That meant, show up, smile, stay silent. I knew the routine. Smile is cheaper than therapy, I said under my breath. She didn't laugh. 7:43 p.m. The Yamamoto suite shimmered under chandelier light, every inch dripping with curated elegance. The table was set for 12. Minimalist, ceremonial. Sayuri walked ahead of me, her heels silent on marble. She introduced me in English. Then Japanese. Fluid. Precise. I bowed, smiled, nodded. Played dumb. She didn't know I'd spent the last 16 months learning her language behind the firewall of our marriage. I took online courses, subscribed to obscure podcasts, watched NHK at 2 a.m. with the captions off. She thought I was asleep. I was decoding her. The partners were older men. Sakamoto, Arakawa, and one whose name I didn't catch, only his laugh, which sounded like tires skidding on wet asphalt. Their wives sat 2 seats down, dressed like porcelain, no eye contact, no presence. Sayuri turned to Sakamoto and began speaking in Japanese, low, casual. Don't worry about him, she said, gesturing toward me. He's decorative. Western companies like married faces. A chuckle passed between them. One muttered something about gaijin loyalty. Sayuri continued. He's compliant. Doesn't ask questions. Keeps his access key. Useful until the audit passes. My jaw locked. Audit? She said my name twice more. Once, when referencing his transfer protocol, and again, laughing, he thinks our marriage is about love. Another drink arrived. A small plate of uni and vinegar rice. My hands moved. My ears burned. Twice, she leaned into her glass and murmured, it's all timed. Next Friday. Phase 3. That was enough. I excused myself. The hallway was silent. Red carpet, gold trim. My pulse thudded in my ears. One of the Japanese men glanced back at me from the doorway. We locked eyes. His expression was unreadable. A fragment of a quote popped into my head. Something my brother used to say. When you're in the room and you're not talking, they forget you're listening. Back in the car, I sat behind the wheel, engine off. I replayed every word. Every coded phrase. Transfer protocol. Audit. Phase 3. I didn't just hear betrayal tonight. I heard a blueprint. I opened my phone. Opened a private app disguised as a chess timer. Logged into the mirror server I created 6 months ago. 2 files were updated today. One of them was titled ed_override access.docs. The other, Mori_protocol_lock. My hand started to shake. She hadn't just lied to me. She was building a trap, and I was the trigger. He still thinks I married him for love. Let him keep thinking that, until it's too late. I cracked the wine glass in my hand. 3:11 a.m. The apartment was too quiet. Too still. Even the refrigerator seemed to hold its breath. I sat on the edge of the bed, shirt half-buttoned, eyes fixed on the thin line of light seeping under the bathroom door. Sayuri was inside. For 20 minutes now. Not a single sound. No water. No movement. I tapped the edge of my phone against my knee. The screen glowed. 2 files stared back at me. ed_override access.docs. Mori_protocol_lake. She had named a protocol after herself. Or someone had. I opened the file marked ED. Locked. Password required. Standard 256-bit encryption. I entered the only password I thought might matter. Her birthday. Rejected. Our anniversary. Rejected. My father's middle name. Rejected. Then, just to test something, I typed Yamamoto 49. Click. Unlocked. My stomach turned. Yamamoto. The suite. The floor number from tonight's dinner. Inside the file, a project directory, dozens of access codes all traced back to my employee ID. Sayuri had cloned my access levels. For 6 weeks, I'd unknowingly given her the digital key to every restricted folder in my company's private network. A quote slipped into my mind, something my instructor once said during a cybersecurity briefing: "You don't lose access all at once. You bleed it slowly, one careless moment at a time." I was hemorrhaging. Bathroom door clicked. Sayuri stepped out, wrapped in a slate gray robe, her face damp and unreadable. "You're still up?" she asked, toweling her hair. I smiled. Too tight. Couldn't sleep. She leaned in, kissed my forehead. Her lips were cold. I left chamomile on the counter. I nodded. Didn't move. She walked past, trailing silence. Behind her, I saw the small black notebook sticking out from her purse. It hadn't been there before. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. She disappeared into the bedroom. I grabbed it. Tucked it into the inside pocket of my hoodie. My hands were slick with sweat. I read the notebook in the car. Under street light. Glove box light off. Dome light covered. Names. Flights. Japanese script I couldn't parse by instinct. I screenshotted every page with my burner phone, page by page. Then I saw it. A phrase in English, barely legible. Phase 3 begins Friday. ED won't survive the audit. My name. Written in her handwriting. I closed the notebook, breathing through my teeth. The air smelled like burnt leather. By morning, I was in the archive room at work. Level B3. No cameras. No digital trace. I pulled a backup drive and synced my laptop to the internal forensic server. I was in. I mapped traffic across the last 3 weeks. Sayuri had tunneled in through a VPN node registered in Kyoto. She masked her movement using an expired login of a former contractor, Naoko Tanida. Tanida. That name hit me like ice water down the spine. She was a ghost in our industry, blacklisted after leaking 2 terabytes of classified research to a third-party shell firm 5 years ago. Disappeared since. Why would Sayuri use her identity? Unless she wasn't working alone. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Fast. 2 people. I pulled the cord. Killed the screen. Dropped the drive into my coat. The archive door creaked open. A voice, "Done?" It was Nolan. My supervisor. He walked in with a junior compliance officer. "We're filing mandatory reports on internal audit inconsistencies," he said casually. Just protocol. Protocol. He said the word and I almost laughed. But my throat locked. Any reason you're accessing legacy systems at 8 a.m.? He asked. I met his eyes. Held the silence like a blade. Just checking a timestamp. Saw a mismatch last week. He nodded. Too quickly. Let me know if you find anything. They left. In the stairwell, I exhaled. Fast. Shaky. My pulse slammed through my neck. I texted a number I hadn't touched in 3 years. Me, urgent. Need eyes on K. Mori. Any Kyoto ties? Ed. The contact's name lit up, Aiko T. 3 dots appeared. Then vanished. Then one reply. Don't move. He's watching your logs. At 4:32 p.m., I was back in my car. Parked across from the AMC Plaza downtown. Sayuri said she had a spa appointment nearby. I watched her through tinted windows. She wasn't going into the spa. She entered the alley behind the theater. 5 minutes later, a man in a charcoal suit met her. They didn't hug. Didn't talk long. She handed him something. Then they walked into the service elevator. I took a photo. My fingers were shaking too hard. Blurry. Useless. I followed. Up to the ballroom level. Pretending to be part of the logistics crew. I caught a glimpse of Sayuri again. She was smiling. Too perfect. A man brushed past me with an earpiece. Japanese accent. He glanced at my badge, except I wasn't wearing one. I turned. He wasn't behind me anymore. Back in my car, I stared at my screen. New message. Delete the backup. He cannot find the Mori protocol. Sent from Sayuri's private email. Timestamp 9:12 p.m. But Sayuri was still inside the ballroom when it sent. And her phone was on silent in her purse. That meant only one thing. Someone else had her credentials. Or her trust. Or both. And that someone had access to every layer of my life. Delete the backup. He cannot find the Mori protocol. I stared at the screen. That protocol, it's under my name. Rain lashed sideways across the windshield. Wipers slashed at the water. I didn't blink. The building across the street was a glass monolith, dark except for one floor, level 32. Kuroda International. Foreign Contracts Division. And somewhere up there, my name was being rewritten. The USB in my coat pocket felt like it weighed 10 pounds. I checked the drive's contents again. Deepfake financial records. Altered metadata. Forged authorization. Every illegal transaction routed through my employee credentials. The Mori protocol wasn't just a plan. It was a setup. Detailed. Precise. And active. Someone was using me as the fall guy for a $12 million offshore embezzlement tied to prototype defense patents. Audit day was Friday. Today was Wednesday. I opened the back panel of my laptop. Replaced the drive with a decoy burner. If Sayuri, or whoever else was watching, accessed my machine, they'd find nothing but search history for Japanese dinner recipes. Sometimes, the most dangerous lies are the ones you tell in plain sight. A ping on my second phone. Aiko. The protocol is active. You have 36 hours before your name hits the federal alert list. I typed back. Where are you? No reply. I looked in the rearview mirror. Street was empty. Or maybe not. Back at my apartment, I stepped inside slowly. Dead quiet. Sayuri's heels were at the door. Her coat hung on the brass hook. Kitchen light was off. Bedroom light, dim. She was home. I walked in, measured. No creaks. She sat by the window, robe on, glass of white wine untouched. Her reflection ghosted in the glass. She didn't turn when she spoke. You've been gone. You were watching? I always watch. My mouth went dry. She sipped the wine. You're being reckless. I found the backup. I know what Mori protocol is. You framed me. She turned, slowly. Her face didn't flicker. Her voice didn't rise. I protected you. Silence. Then she whispered. Don't open anything else. I stepped forward. Why? Because the deeper you dig, the less of you comes back. I stared. What is this really about, Sayuri? You need money? Immunity? Is this about your father? She blinked once. Then stood. Walked to the hallway. Paused. He doesn't want you dead. He wants you erased. The elevator door in the hallway dinged. Sayuri froze. Then she hissed, You need to leave. Now. I grabbed my coat. 12 minutes later, I was inside a Chinatown basement ramen shop. Cramped. Greasy air. Fluorescent lights flickering overhead. Aiko sat in the far booth. Hoodie up. One eye covered in gauze. She didn't smile. You brought it? I slid the drive across the table. She plugged it in. Scanned. Then cursed in Japanese. Half the data's been duplicated. Distributed through a relay server in Nagoya. It's out of our hands now. I clenched my jaw. She looked up. They didn't build this for blackmail. They built it for destruction. Of you. I stared at the noodles. Aiko kept talking. Friday, DOJ gets the first audit report. You get flagged. Homeland pulls your clearance. Within a week, you're branded unstable, under investigation, stripped of access. And after that? After that, you disappear. Officially. Phone buzzed. Block number. I answered. A man's voice, low, calm. Mr. Dunn, we're calling to confirm your financial withdrawal request for $4.2 million wired to Daiwa Private Holdings in Tokyo. I didn't authorize that. Click. The line went dead. I looked at Aiko. She nodded. Phase 3. It's already in motion. I stood. She grabbed my wrist. Where are you going? Back. To what? I met her eyes. My life. Outside, Seattle smelled like smoke. Sirens echoed down Fifth. Someone ran past me, yelling into a phone. My breath misted in the air. I walked straight to the parking garage. 3rd floor. My car sat alone under a flickering light. Remote unlocked it. Lights flashed once. I opened the door. Stopped. Seatbelt hung like a noose. Brake pedal looked wrong. I ducked. Shined a light. Line was cut. I stepped back, hard hammering. Someone had tampered with it. Behind me moved footsteps. Fast. Not hiding. I turned. A black SUV idled at the exit ramp. Tinted windows. No plates. My blood turned to ice. I ran. Down the ramp. Across the street. Into a delivery entrance. Through a stairwell. 3 floors up. Ducking into an office floor under renovation. Silence. Then. Buzz. Another text. You weren't supposed to survive that drive. From Sayuri's number. I ran 3 blocks before I stopped breathing. A parking garage swallowed me. Rusted pipes. Buzzing light. Rainwater leaking through cracks in the ceiling. I ducked behind a red Civic. Pulled out my phone. 1% battery. Last message still on the screen. You weren't supposed to survive that drive. From Sayuri's number. My hand clenched around the phone. Not fear. Not yet. Just the realization nothing in my life belonged to me anymore. Not my marriage. Not my name. Not even my death. I powered off the phone. Grabbed the second burner from my boot. Dialed the number Aiko once used to warn me. It rang once. Clicked. No greeting. I whispered, someone just cut my brakes. Silence. Then, where are you? Underground garage. 9th and Jefferson. Stay down. 3 minutes. Click. 2 minutes, 40 seconds later, a silver Accord pulled up fast. Driver's side tinted. Rear window rolled halfway down. Aiko's voice, get in. I didn't hesitate. We moved fast. No headlights. Through alleys. Past midnight traffic. Her eyes stayed on the mirror. I kept watch on the glove box, half expecting a gun. Who the hell sent that message? Not Sayuri, she said. Someone else has her biometric access. Likely copied weeks ago. I turned. So she's not behind this? Aiko didn't answer. We pulled into a shipping yard east of the port. Empty crates. Forklifts frozen in rust. Fog rolling in thick. She killed the engine. Led me down a stairwell behind a stack of containers. Steel door. Keypad. No label. Inside, flickering fluorescence. Buzz of old servers. Coffee-stained blueprints on the wall. This is off-grid, she said. No uplinks. No government trace. What is this place? Evidence locker. Unofficial. Everything the official agencies buried or ignored. She pointed to a corkboard covered in red yarn and photos. I saw Sayuri's face. My name. A Tokyo address. A map of my company's server layout. You've been tracking me. We've been protecting you. I backed up. You lied to me. No, she said. We didn't think you'd make it this far. My throat tightened. You're telling me Sayuri's innocent? I'm telling you she's not your enemy. She clicked a remote. A projection lit the wall. Security footage. Grainy. Sayuri, meeting with a woman in a Tokyo restaurant. Whispering. Sliding over a flash drive. Timestamped, 6 months ago. That's when she stole the original Mori protocol, Aiko said. And gave it to us. I stepped forward. Heart pounding. She was the leak? She thought she could protect you by helping us dismantle her father's network. I couldn't speak. She married you because you had the access, Aiko continued. But she stayed because you were unexpected. I sank into the metal chair. Breathing hard. All this time, I'd been planning against the wrong threat. Then why the message? The drive? The frame-up? Aiko looked down. Something changed 3 weeks ago. Her access went dark. She stopped responding. We think Kaito pulled her back in. Her father. Yes. He's here now. In Seattle. Suddenly, the walls felt too close. I stood. What do I do? You vanish. No. Elias. I'm not running. You think you'll win? No. But I'll be heard. She sighed. Stepped back. Opened a drawer. Tossed me a flash drive. What's this? A partial decrypt of Mori protocol. Shows the offshore transactions. The redirect orders. It's enough to scare the board. I grabbed it. And the rest? Still buried. You won't get to it alone. I won't be alone. The lights flickered. Aiko froze. Looked up. Was that you? I shook my head. She reached for her weapon. Too late. The lights cut out. Bang, metal clanged overhead. A crash in the hallway. Red light pulsed under the door. We need to move, Aiko snapped. Where? She pushed open the back wall. Hidden door. Emergency exit. Into the crate yard. Footsteps behind us. Voices. Japanese. Heavily armed. We sprinted. Behind us, shouting. Flashlight beams. The door slammed. Alarm screamed. Aiko shoved me toward a ladder. Up. Now. I climbed. Hand slipping. Rain. Blood. I didn't know where from. We hit the roof. From up here, Seattle was a grid of dying stars. Cranes swung in the wind. Sirens in the distance. Aiko dropped to one knee. Pulled out a flare gun. What are you doing? Calling my ride. But they'll see. They already know we're here. She fired. The flare cut the sky open. Below us, shouts. A red dot on my chest. Sniper. I ducked. Aiko pulled me flat. Welcome to the war you weren't supposed to survive. Elias, your wife, isn't the one trying to kill you. The wind howled like a warning. I was soaked. Cold. Heart pounding like a trapdoor about to give way. The shipping yard lights flickered, exposing halves of steel containers. Shadows leapt on concrete. I tasted salt in the air. Not from the ocean, but fear. Aiko dragged me through a gap in a broken fence. Her words were brief, clipped. They're here to finish it. No explanation. No empathy. Just action. We ducked behind a stack of crates. My boots sank into mud. Aiko scanned the perimeter with a small thermal scope. Two figures, armed, moving in sync, humming with menace. One was tall. Built like a guard from an oil platform. The other, shorter, swift, fingers twitching near a sidearm. Aiko whispered, "They're not mercs. They're corporate retrieval." I didn't need translation. Sayuri's father had arrived. I thought about something old mentors used to say, in war, the enemy reveals himself by what he fears losing. Right then I realized I was the fear. Aiko dropped into full crouch. Follow me. We bolted. A narrow alley between two stacks. The rain hammered like bullets. We climbed a ladder to a catwalk, rusted and groaning. Above, cranes swung like giant pendulums. Aiko paused. Listened. Static snap from the comm. Terminate and secure. No code names. No negotiation. Just kill orders. I swallowed hard. The flare of lightning divided the sky. We reached a locked shipping container. Aiko punched in the code. The lock clicked. Inside was chaos, a virtual war room on wheels. Screens, portable servers, satellites. A command post with no name. She stabbed a key into one port. The screen burst to life. Maps. Names. Transfers. Mori protocol in blinking red. Her voice was flat. It's deeper than we thought. I leaned in. Lines of code streamed like digital blood. Foreign nodes. Hidden channels. Government IP masks. Offshore accounts tied to real shell corporations, legal on paper, criminal in effect. One tag stood out, Kuroda Trust, Seattle branch. My breath went shallow. Aiko pointed to another line. Redirect approval, ED07/19, authorized. My initials. My signature. But I never clicked authorize. Not even close. Distraction, she said, then reveal. Her words hit like a bullet. I backed away. She continued. Your signature was cloned. Timestamped when you were with Sayuri at dinner. Everything clicked. The dinner wasn't a trial. It was evidence. Smiling in public. Speaking in her language. Controlled. Observed. Like a camera pointed at my face. But never at my eyes. Aiko stood. Pulled a USB from her jacket. This contains the real timeline, raw logs from before the protocol went live. It's not complete, but it shows someone close to you had editing privileges. I snatched it. My trust was hacked. She looked at me like I was spinning. You want the truth? I nodded. Before she spoke, a sound echoed, metal scraping on metal. Footsteps. Then voices. Japanese. But not just ordinary Japanese. Cold. Precise. Military grade. We have visual, one voice said. Subject is with hostile one. Aiko and I froze. They knew who I was with. And who I trusted. I glanced at the screens, codes blinking faster. Red warnings. Breach alerts. An approaching threat. Violent. Immediate. Then I saw it. On the screen. Sayuri. Her face. Clear. Timestamped 15 minutes ago. She wasn't on the yard. She was inside a corporate archive facility, flying under Kuroda's private security. Her hands shaking. Entering a vault. On a mission. Not to harm. But to retrieve. My pulse spiked. Aiko's voice cut through. She's trying to undo the damage. I didn't breathe. Not yet. Then another line flashed. Unauthorized access detected in Kuroda Vault. Security breach. Lockdown initiated. Sayuri was trapped. But what was she trying to get? The revelation hit like a sledgehammer. If Sayuri wasn't the trigger, then she might hold the only key to stop Phase 3. A phrase floated through my mind, something I once told myself while fixing a system breach. Sometimes the truth is a blade you're not ready to hold. I wasn't ready. But the clock was ticking. Sirens wailed in the distance. Not far. Too close. We had no time. I pocketed both USBs. Aiko grabbed her coat. I swallowed the bile in my throat. We go to her. She hesitated. Then nodded. We ran. The yard entrance was already swarming, flashlights, radios, armored personnel carriers. I spotted the snipers from the rooftop. One eye glinted through a scope. I saw my reflection in that cold, mechanical lens. Broken. But still alive. Aiko pulled me down. We scrambled behind a stack. My heart hammered. Slowed. Focused. I reached for the USB that held raw truth. If this was a war, I had the evidence. And maybe a way to save her. We slipped through a fence made of barbed wire. The alley past it was narrow. No cover. But no retreat. I readied myself. Not for a chase. For confrontation. For Sayuri. And for the ugly truth hiding beneath every lie I'd ever lived. If Sayuri isn't trying to kill me, then who the hell just blew up the safe house? Her father's name wasn't just part of the conspiracy. He was the architect. And now we were footsteps from his vault. My phone vibrated once. A single notification. A map pin. Location. Kuroda International Archive Facility. I exhaled. Slow. Controlled. The storm wasn't over. It had only just begun. The lobby lights were ice white. Too bright. Blinding. I stood under the atrium glass, watching the city breathe in lights below. Seattle was a grid of stars pinned to asphalt. But up here it felt like a coffin lid made of fragile reflections. Sayuri stood beside me. Her suit was immaculate. Her hair, pulled back. Eyes hard. "You shouldn't have come," she said, voice low as a threat and a plea all at once. "It's my life," I said. No hesitation. Behind us, the gala buzzed, politicians, investors, diplomats in tuxedos. Perfume and power. They were blind to the war bleeding through the crystal walls. Sayuri led me through a side corridor with no cameras. That was the plan. She whispered it like it was a lifeline. "They're here for you," she said. I didn't doubt it. Only a few steps later, security guards in black suits blocked our path. No badges. No warnings. Just guns. One stepped forward. "Mr. Dunn," he said, clipped. "Stand down." I raised my hands. Slow. Like the man handling the situation controls the pace of death. Sayuri's eyes flicked, tiny, sharp reflexes. Then she spoke. "He's with me." 2 words. But the room froze. One guard lowered his weapon. Another hesitated. A manager's voice echoed down the corridor. "Mr. Kuroda requests your cooperation." Kuroda. That name hit like a drop in the stomach. Sayuri exhaled. Just once. We were escorted. Red carpet on marble. Cameras on ceilings. No escape. I scanned faces, lines of security woven into the event like veins, pulsing with threat. Sayuri leaned close. "They've turned the board already. Their definition of assistance is removal." I thought about something once said in a strategy seminar: only fools choose war without knowing the enemy's endgame. Right then, I realized we were already deep in it. We were ushered into a room, private, sleek, ceiling high. In the center, Kaito Kuroda. Sayuri's father. Silver hair, suit perfect as winter night. Cold as carved marble. Below him, on a table, USB drives. Scattered like bullets. His voice was effortless. "Elias. Thank you for joining us." I didn't sit. Eyes on the drives. Each labeled with versions of Mori Protocol. Phase 1. Phase 2. Final directive. All linked to my credentials. I stepped forward. "This isn't over my head. I know what this is." Kuroda smiled. Thin. Calculating. "We are rewriting defense policy. You were instrumental." Instrumental. A lie forged in PR and lies. I spoke slow. "There's forensic evidence I never logged in Japan. Fake timestamps. Fake approvals. You made me the face of it." He stared. Unblinking. "They did what was necessary," he said. His. Not hers. Not mine. But it clicked, like a bullet slicing silence. Necessary for whom? The door thudded. Aiko entered. Panting. One eye bruised. "Security breach in vault," she said. Sayuri stare. Kuroda didn't flinch. "I anticipated this," he said. Aiko's gaze snapped to me. "We need to move." I glanced at Sayuri. She nodded. No fear. Just that quiet, dangerous resolution you see in people who've survived their own betrayals. We ran. Hallway marble gave way to fire doors. Red lights pulsed. The alarm cut through the music from the gala. I heard candles fall in the ballroom far below. Glass shattered. A distraction. Reveal. We reached the vault corridor. Sealed. Access restricted. Aiko punched in override codes. Doors slid open. Inside the chaos. Security guards down. Sayuri standing over a cracked safe. Her hands were bloodied. Not hers. Someone else's. My breath tightened. She lifted her head. I had to show them it wasn't just digital. Before I could process, speakers crackled. Kuroda's voice. This concludes Phase 3. Doors behind us slammed shut. Lock engaged. Red light spiked. The vault was a pressure cooker. Fire suppression systems whirred to life. Gas filled the room. Sayuri grabbed my wrist. We end this here. We moved to the control panel. Another set of passwords. One last override. She looked at me. Then said, "Trust is the final key." I knew then. Twist isn't always betrayal. Sometimes it's surrender. I entered the code. Doors opened. Flames licked at the metal edges. We ran. Up the stairs. 1 flight. 2. Smoke now. Red glow in the corridor. I saw Aiko go down. I hesitated. Sayuri looked over. Go. I'll find another way. No argument. I ran. Sirens outside. Federal agents. Lights strobing. Kuroda's empire crumbling. Mori protocol exposed. My name cleared. Sayuri emerged, smoke on her coat, fire in her eyes, just as helicopters buzzed above. We stood in the rubble of what nearly consumed us. She said slow, breath rough. Truth isn't what you find. It's what you're forced to face. I nodded. Because it was true. We watched the arrests. Agents in suits cuffing men in tailored blazers. The elite brought down by their own blueprint. I felt the weight of every betrayal, every manipulation, lift a little. Not free. Not forgiven. But understood. Later, on a cold rooftop overlooking the bay, Sayuri and I stood in silence. City lights flickered. Like stars unsure of their place. She spoke. You never stopped listening. I replied. And you never stopped speaking. A truth only clear in hindsight. The dawn came slow. Gray and fragile. I thought of what someone once said. A scar is the price of survival. We both had them. Not hidden. Not healed. Visible. Like proof of life. We walked down together. Side by side. Not perfect. Not whole. But no longer alone. And in that fragile peace, amid the tension of what was lost and what endured, I realized. Some truths teach you to rebuild. Not just survive. But live. Elias, run. If he catches you, you'll disappear. A memory now, echoing less like a threat. And more like the moment I stopped listening for danger. And started listening for truth.